In the Middle East, Iran often stands out. Hezbollah has received weapons from Iran, and it's believed that Iranian support was involved in the attack we planned against Israel. What does Iran gain from supporting groups opposed by much of the world? Saudi Arabia and Iran, both Muslim countries, were once allies but are now fierce rivals. What caused this shift, and what are the consequences of the regional power struggle? To understand this, we need to cover the basics after Prophet Muhammad's death. A divide emerged over who should be the new caliph. One group supported Abu Bakr, a close friend of the Prophet, while another backed Ali, the Prophet's son-in-law. This split created two main branches in Islam: Sunni Muslims, who followed Abu Bakr, and Shia Muslims, who followed Ali. There are many differences between Sunni and Shia Muslims. On a world map, Sunni Muslims are the majority in most countries, while Shia Muslims are predominant in Iran, Iraq, and Yemen. Globally, about 90% of Muslims are Sunni and 10% are Shia. Sunni Muslims in the Arab world differ from those in Iran, which speaks Persian and is culturally distinct from Arab countries. Despite being in the Middle East, Iran is not part of the Arab League. Arabic is spoken in Arab countries, where Muslims are known as Arab Muslims. While there isn't a precise map of religious demographics in the Middle East, generally 17 countries in the region have either Sunni or Shia majorities. 13 of these are Arab countries, and Iran is not one of them. The predominance of Sunni Muslims in the Arab world has led to various conflicts, including the Iran-Saudi proxy wars, civil wars in Iran and Syria, the Bahrain uprising, and ISIS persecution in 2014. Understanding these issues is crucial for grasping the region's dynamics. Historically, Iran was known as Persia, and its strategic location and resources have made it significant to global superpowers. Iran's borders reach into South Asia and the Arab world, and it sits next to the Persian Gulf and the Arabian Sea, which are major trade routes. The Strait of Hormuz is a crucial choke point, blocking it could quickly cut off 20% of the world's oil supply. Iran also has large reserves of oil and natural gas, but internal issues have led to severe economic problems. Currently, 28% of Iran's population lives in poverty, with another 40% expected to fall into poverty in the next 2 years. To fully understand the situation, it's important to consider the Sunni-Shia divide, cultural differences, geopolitics, and resource issues. This background will help make sense of the situation as we delve deeper. Let's rewind to the 1800s, when Iran was ruled by the Qajar dynasty under Shah Fath Ali Qajar. Normally, a king has absolute power over his country, but Iran had a slightly different setup. The Shia Muslim population was the majority, and their Shia faith was deeply ingrained in daily life. Religious scholars known as ulama played a key role in interpreting religious laws and guiding the people. Among these scholars, the most knowledgeable were called ayatollahs in Iran. These ulama held significant political influence, which meant the king's authority was not absolute. If the ulama issued a ruling, the king had to follow it. At that time, Iran, then called Persia, bordered British India, which had not yet been divided into Pakistan. India was under British rule, and Iran also shared a border with Russia. The strategic importance of Iran with its resources was crucial to both the British and the Russians, leaving Iran caught between these two superpowers. In 1804, Russia attacked Iran, leading to the Treaty of Gulistan. You might wonder why Russia didn't take over all of Iran. The reason is that Iran also bordered the British, and both superpowers wanted to avoid direct conflict. Instead, they divided influence over the region. Russia took control of parts of the Caspian Sea and secured military and trade rights in Iran. After Tsar Alexander I died, Iranian King Fath Ali Shah tried to exploit Russia's potential weakness but failed. Russia then signed a new treaty, the Treaty of Turkmenchi. As a result, Iran was fined 20 million rubles, and Russia gained additional naval rights over Iranian territories. By October of 1834, Muhammad Shah had taken the throne after Fath Ali Shah's death. When Muhammad Shah died, his son Nasir al-Din Shah became king on September 5, 1848. Nasir al-Din Shah was somewhat aggressive, and around 1856 he claimed Herat for Iran and attacked to annex it. This prompted the British to counterattack, pushing Iran back and leading to the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris granted the British control over southeastern Iran, similar to Russian gains in the north. These treaties effectively divided Iran between Russia and Britain without direct conflict. Local Iranian traders, known as Zaya at the time, suffered greatly as they faced competition from British and Russian traders. Their businesses and Iran's textile industry fell into the hands of foreign interests. The situation didn't end there. In 1890, Nasir al-Din Shah handed Iran's tobacco industry to the British, causing widespread protests as people felt the king was selling out to foreigners. The growing discontent led the ulama to intervene, putting pressure on the king and forcing him to cancel the treaty. In 1892, this boosted the ulama's influence. In 1896, Mirza Reza Karmani assassinated Nasir al-Din Shah, and his son, Mozaffar al-Din Shah, became king that year. UK businessman William D'Arcy, exploring for oil, received a report on Iran's oil potential. On April 16, 1901, D'Arcy signed a 60-year agreement with Mozaffar al-Din Shah to explore and extract oil. The deal promised Iran 16% of the profits and a fixed annual payment with British support. D'Arcy set up a company to oversee the venture. In 1908, the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, later known as British Petroleum, discovered significant oil reserves in Iran. Despite this major find, most of the profits went to the British, while Iran received only a small percentage and a fixed annual payment. This caused widespread frustration among Iranians who felt they were being cheated out of their own resources. Discontent grew, and calls for political reform emerged. The ulama, or religious scholars, gained influence and pushed for a new constitutional system similar to England's. This led to the establishment of the Majlis, a parliamentary body aimed at balancing the king's power with more democratic principles. In Iran, the Majlis means parliament held significant power, with religious scholars making laws based on Shia Islam. The king had limited authority as the Majlis effectively ran the government. After Shah Muzaffar ad-Din died in 1909, his son Muhammad Ali Shah opposed the Majlis. Using the army to attack and imprison its leaders, the Majlis fought back, regained control, and continued to dominate Iranian politics with a young puppet king on the throne. During World War I, the British, heavily invested in Iranian oil, couldn't leave despite providing aid and security. Iranians were unhappy with the profits being taken out of the country. The Majlis demanded the British withdraw, and international pressure eventually forced them to do so. The British left but supported Reza Khan Pahlavi, who led a coup against the Qajar dynasty. Reza Khan then manipulated the Majlis to consolidate his control and weaken its power. With Reza Khan's rise, the Pahlavi dynasty began. He introduced Western-style reforms like mandatory European dress codes and limited traditional religious practices. Modernizing Iran, he encouraged women to work and join government jobs, but maintained censorship and suppressed political opposition. In 1933, Reza Khan raised Iran's share of profits from the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company to 20%, but did little for ordinary Iranians. During World War II, his ties with Germany worried the UK and USSR, leading to his forced abdication and replacement by his son as a puppet ruler. The UK and USSR then attacked Iran to prevent Germany from gaining control of Iranian resources, causing severe damage, inflation, and hunger in the country. After World War II, the UK and US withdrew from Iran, but the USSR remained, supporting local rebels and leading to semi-autonomous regions like Azerbaijan and Kurdistan. The UK's influence grew, and it, along with the US, shared profits from Iranian oil, limiting Iran's control over its resources. In 1951, Mohammad Mossadegh, opposing this arrangement, nationalized the oil industry. Despite public support, a US-UK orchestrated coup in 1953 replaced Mossadegh with Mohammad Reza Shah, restoring a pro-Western monarchy and safeguarding Western oil interests. In the 1960s, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, a leading Shia cleric, criticized the Shah for selling out Iran's oil and undermining religious and democratic values. His speeches gained significant public support, leading to his imprisonment and exile to Iraq in 1964. In Iraq, Khomeini continued his activism, advocating that divine laws should govern the state rather than human rulers. His call for an Islamic state resonated with many Iranians, sparking widespread protests and strikes, particularly in the oil fields. Khomeini's growing influence also worried leaders like Saddam Hussein, who feared its impact on Iraq's Shia population. Protests also erupted in Iraq, leading Saddam Hussein to expel Khomeini, forcing him to relocate to France. Khomeini's idea of an Islamic state governed by divine laws faced opposition from both monarchies and democracies, as leaders feared his growing influence might threaten their power. As unrest in Iran escalated, Mohammad Reza Shah, the monarch, reacted with extreme measures against protesters and dissenters. In early 1978, protests against the Shah's regime intensified, and his violent response and media censorship only worsened the situation. False reports about Khomeini in January further fueled unrest. By December 1978, protests surged during Muharram. The Shah, suffering from cancer, left Iran for treatment, and Khomeini returned to a warm welcome. On April 1, 1979, a referendum saw 98% of Iranians vote to establish an Islamic Republic, transforming Iran into an Islamic Republic later that year. The Iranian Islamic Revolution of 1979 turned Iran into a theocracy led by a supreme leader and governed by Sharia law. An Islamic Revolutionary Guard was created to protect this system. The current supreme leader is Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and the president is Masoud Pezeshkian. After the revolution, protesters took over the US embassy in Tehran on November 4, 1979, holding 52 Americans hostage and demanding the extradition of the Shah, who was receiving medical treatment abroad. The hostages were released after 444 days, and the revolution increased tensions with neighboring countries like Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. After the Iranian Revolution, which inspired similar movements, neighboring countries, especially Iraq, felt threatened. In 1980, Saddam Hussein invaded, and due to disputes over the Shatt al-Arab waterway, territorial ambitions, and Iran's weakened military post-revolution. Despite support from Kuwait, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, Iran, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, fiercely resisted. The Iran-Iraq War, lasting from 1980 to 1988, ended in a stalemate. Ayatollah Khomeini died on June 3, 1989, and his funeral drew millions. The next day, Ali Khamenei was elected supreme leader and has held the position since. The Islamic Revolution fostered strong anti-Western sentiment, making collaboration with the West politically risky.